was a time before cable, when the local anchorman reigned supreme, when people believed everything they heard on podcasts. This was an age when only men were allowed to read the news, and in San Diego, one anchorman was more man than the rest. His name was Cheat Codes. He was like a god walking amongst mere mortals. He had a voice that could make a Wolverine purr, and suits so fine they made Sinatra look like a hobo. In other words, Cheat Codes was the balls. What'd you guys think of the intro?
It was okay. It's all right. It's fine.
Afternoon Delight.
It's November 23rd, 2015. Welcome to episode 73 of the Cheat Codes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We're super glad you're joining us. Whether you're a longtime listener or checking us out for the first time, thanks so much for being here. The next hour is us drinking a few beers, going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game, tech, and pop culture news. My name is Joe Erskine. I am your host, and we're coming to you from a San Diego newsroom, and hopefully no one slipped anything offensive into the teleprompter. News team assemble! We're putting this episode out a little earlier than usual, what with Thanksgiving taking up our usual recording day this week. That being said, hopefully you've got some rad plans that include turkey, but regardless, we hope you enjoy yourselves. Today I'm here with Cheat Codes producer and editor, Mr. Joe Baxter Arroyo.
I ate a whole wheel of cheese.
Cheat Codes contributor, Mr. Nick Sex Panther Golish.
It's pure gasoline.
And making his triumphant return to the panel, our very own community manager and boss key game designer, Mr. Chris Tits McGee Morris.
Tits McGee.
Today on the show, we're going to jazz flute solo the following main topics. Remember the old Nintendo hotline you guys could call when you got stuck playing early NES games? Do you remember that?
I actually do, yeah.
The AV Club published a lengthy roundtable interview with a handful of those folks, and we're going to take a look at some of those highlights. Valve has decided to change up the way it rolls out its very popular seasonal sales. Seriously, though, don't worry. They still want your money, and you're probably still going to give it to them. The circle of life continues. And Mark Cuban has his fingers on a lot of pies. You can now add eSports to his long list of credentials. He had some choice words about gaming and eSports, Colin Cowherd specifically, and he paid handsomely to say them. Oh, it's going to be good. And for today's lightning round, we're going to, drop kick some dogs off a bridge somehow.
That are the following topics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little much.
Kotaku put out an article discussing the fact that they've been blacklisted by Bethesda and Ubisoft for a couple of years, respectively. What emerges is a look into the relationship between big developers and big games journalism. And lastly, for the lightning round, we will discuss Dark Souls 3 and how it might be the last of the series. In a time where franchises are milked for everything they're worth and beyond, this is an interesting thought. Also, milk was a bad choice.
Don't worry, you can still play Blood Boner 3 or 2.
We're going to talk about all that, but maybe. I love scotch. Scotch. Here it goes down into my belly.
Scotch.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
That's fine. No worries.
As many know, we like to crack a few cold ones while we do the show, and we, who are we to shuck tradition? Today, in the spirit of we generally drink beer on this show and not scotch, we're enjoying a limited edition Scotch Silly Bourbon barrel-aged Belgian ale from the Brasserie des Silly, all the way from Belgium. What better way to celebrate a wholly American holiday than by co-opting something from someone or somewhere else? So cheers, gentlemen. Cheers. We can raise a glass here. Absolutely. Cheers to you, Chris, all the way out there in North Carolina.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.
And cheers to you and yours, dear listener. We're truly grateful that you're here hanging out with us. Maybe you're spending some of your holiday time tuning in, but we appreciate it. This beer is pretty, 11% ABV is what they're talking about, this bad boy?
Yeah.
11% right now.
11%. Yeah, double digits, which means
so good.
things could quickly go off the rails. But we'll see how we go. See how we do. Okay, so before we hit the first topic, we'd like to try out a new segment. We're calling it...
Is this how I Twitter? Did I twit?
In honor of Nick here, who we're pretty sure used the exact phrase as his first tweet. So we're going to highlight a relevant trending topic from Twitter from time to time and share a few of our favorite tweets. Today, Slack, if you don't know, It's a relatively newer chat app that has a bunch of useful features. A lot of companies are using it as a replacement for email and such. Well, it went down today for like an hour, maybe. We use it both for the podcast and in our jobs respectively, but the outage was a trending topic on Twitter. So here are our favorite twits. Chris, read the first one, man.
All right. So, come on, Slack. I need to ask my coworker who sits next to me something, says Amanda Rosenberg. Your coworker's sitting right next to you. Like,
Pretty sure that's the
turn
joke.
your chair to the side. Is it not like a rotating?
But Slack
chair?
is down, so she can't.
Right.
She can't talk to.
I sit next to Joe and Nick all the time, and we still use Slack to communicate, so that makes sense.
We prefer it.
Yeah. Mr. Arroyo.
Brad Semantle says, Slack's been down for an hour. Am I supposed to talk to coworkers with my mouth like some kind of animal?
The answer is yes. For number 3, at Anna Picard, who happens to work in the editorial department at Slack headquarters, posted early on, about 6 hours ago when I posted this script, today is going to be a very, very good day. And then about 5 hours later, she tweeted, I was incorrect.
I love it.
And lastly, Mr. Golish, go ahead.
At ID Joseph, he said, hello from the other Slack. I must have tried 100 chats to tell you I'm sorry for working from home. And I've almost made you pick up a phone. That's great.
That's a good one.
The Adele reference is topical and timely. This is what we do here. Chris, how are you, buddy? It's good to have you back on the show, man.
I am doing okay. I'm a little out of sorts. I'm sorry. I've kind of got sleep deprived the past couple weeks. It's all the booze and the drinking and the onesie bar crawls happening around here. First world problems.
What is a onesie bar crawl?
Oh God.
So our former guest Demond, he dragged me out last minute this weekend to a onesie bar crawl in which maybe 40 or 50 of us dressed up in onesie pajamas. Like I was Pikachu, and we went out and got hammered and wandered all around Raleigh. It was fantastic, but Sunday was not so much.
Oh, fair enough. That sounds delightful, though. That sounds like something I could get on board for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely, it was a good time.
Oh, good. You've been out for a while. You've been doing stuff behind the scenes for us, but I mean, you were in Japan. You were assuming your new title officially at the new job and everything else. So, well, we're glad you're back, buddy. We appreciate you.
I'm happy to be back.
Finding time out from your hangover to hang out with us. You know.
Yeah. Let me know when you have the furry bar crawl. I'll join you for that.
That was like the after party.
I imagine. I mean, you could pretty much pass as furries if you have the onesie with the Pikachu. If you could put it over your head and cover your face, you could probably get into a furry party.
Sure.
I kept wanting to like roll up and just be like, "Hey, girl, let me get a Pikachu," but I never had an opportunity to use that one, unfortunately. At least not in a non-ironic fashion. But I don't know. Is there a non-ironic way to say that?
I feel like you had every opportunity to say it wearing a Pikachu outfit.
I agree with Nick.
Like,
on
I would
that
have said it to every person in the bar. Like,
even guys.
I was looking for the opportunity,
guys,
because
they would understand it better.
Create an opportunity for me to get beat up.
Well,
sure, which then would be entertaining for everyone else who went with you.
For
so
everyone else, but
it's kind of a win-win, I think.
No, because then
that's
Demond
when-
had to beat everyone's ass, and like I don't want to make him do that.
but I don't want to tell you how to play Pokemon. But that's when Pikachu uses Run Away. So, just saying. Anyway, is that even a real power? It's not.
It's option you can choose at the beginning
okay.
of the fight. So
But
you
it's
can
not
stay
going to
away.
display it as like Pikachu uses Run Away.
It doesn't. It's not going to say uses. It's going to say the player ran away or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Fair enough.
Well, if it's a wild Pokemon, maybe.
Right. Well, welcome back, sir, man. We're glad to have you back. Thank you very much, man, for making the time. On to the topics, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're going to start off with a little bit that was super interesting to me and makes for a great read if you have the time. But we're gonna kind of break it down. The AV Club, Andy Zaleski wrote an article and they basically sat down and had a roundtable with three. You can't call them developers, but you can call them video game professionals, I guess, to a certain degree.
It's a good way to put it. I think.
Back in the 80s and late 80s and early 90s, Nintendo had a Powerline, quote unquote, program where like if you got an issue in Nintendo Power or there were probably flyers in with your game cartridge when you were picking NES games or Super NES games that basically was like, here's a hotline you can call to help you through any parts of a level or a particular game that you were stuck with or needed hints at or whatever. This is before Game Genie. This is before, I mean, I guess a lot of cheat codes, but but these guys worked for the Nintendo hotline here in Redmond, and they basically sat down with this lady from the AV Club to sit down and just kind of like rehash what it was like getting the job, what it was like working there, what it was like during holiday parties, what it was, just silly stories, and what it was like in their sometimes unceremonious exits. But I found this article super fascinating because I think in two parts it was both a huge dose of nostalgia, how getting a job like that, A, doesn't exist anymore, but B, is never going to be that way again. And beyond that, watching these guys kind of come out of the woodwork, because I remember this hotline very well, like to sit down and have them kind of remember would be, I don't know, I just found it to be super fascinating. They had a bunch of good stories, and we're going to get into it here in a second.
Have you called this hotline before?
So I actually called it today, and
although that's not the intention of the hotline, it's not around anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
but I did want to see what would happen if I called that number, and what it said was that the area code had changed. So instead of a 206 number, it was now a 425, but the last 7 digits remained the same. And when I did call, Nintendo picked up, and by picking up, I mean it was an automated voice that said, "This number is no longer in service. We don't, this is still part of our stable of phone numbers that we have as a company." But
I hope it was like in Mario voice. So it's like
it was definitely not. It was definitely like that telemarketer recording voice. Unfortunately,
that's really sad.
When I saw the number in the article, I was like, I'm definitely going to call this right now just to see what happens.
So you're one of those people that always just calls some phone number that you see in some article or on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Joe Erskine tries his chances with that. He's like 555.
Right. Why doesn't the 555 thing actually work?
I don't get it.
Have you guys tried the number that's in Fallout yet?
I heard that it's a real number.
I heard that it is a real number.
Yep. Yeah, I called it while I was in bed one night.
Oh.
Just looking for some action, but it wasn't what I was hoping for.
You were expecting more of like a, hello? Hi.
Yeah. No.
What happened? What's the number? What does it do?
It's like just a number that it's like an automated message about Vault Tech. You should try it out. It's pretty funny.
Okay. Can you leave a message?
No, it just talks to you and then you hang up.
All right. It's like the John Oliver thing when they started their own church for the last week tonight. They started their own church for a while. Anyway. Long story short. Anyway, okay, so we're moving on. So these guys sat down with the AV Club reporter and basically started going down the list about how they got their jobs, how like what their job experience was like. Most of these guys were like late teens, early 20s, either out of college or about to go into college, picking up jobs through Volt of all companies, which is, if you live up around us and you're looking to get into the game industry, like this is kind of like the company you go through to get testing jobs. And what was really interesting was what struck me, how simple it was actually to get a job at Nintendo, but also how they kind of rigged the system in their favor to a certain degree.
Yeah, it was like, here, take this test on The Legend of Zelda.
Right.
And then here's a job if you pass the test. And then it turns out that some of the people who were being interviewed, actually one specifically, went in with giant sunglasses.
Like mirrored aviators or whatever.
And he taped the answers that someone had already told him about it, having not played Zelda yet, into the glasses, and then put him down on the table, and no one gave a shit, and he just filled in the answers and got the job. And I'm like, that's a good start. Yeah. All right, let's start with lying to get the job. That's a good start.
Yeah. It should also be perhaps think about this time period too, like late 80s, early 90s, like mullets were a thing, and they actually had like a range from like uber mullet to super mullet, ultra mullet to super mullet. Like everybody that happened to work in the department.
Where would you rate Ultra on a scale? I feel like Super comes before Ultra and Mega.
No, Ultra is definitely after Super.
Super, it's Mega, Ultra, right?
If you ever,
no, I feel like Super is below Mega and Ultra.
I feel like Mega might be at
the Super, Mega, Ultra, right?
Yeah. Would you?
Is that the order?
Really? So that means Mega Man is greater than Superman?
Possibly because Mega Man's a robot, but I don't know. It's hard to tell.
All Mega Man needs to do at that point is get like a kryptonite like gun hand, and
Yeah, he's basically Batman. He has all these gadgets.
And they both just get fucked by Ultraman.
Yeah.
Ultraman.
Those are choice words. I should try and rephrase that.
Phrasing.
He just bends them over.
Sorry.
Tells them to grab their ankles.
Oh my god. See, like I had a Freudian slip, and you just took it. Wait, Freudian slip. That's not the right way to say that. God damn it! I can't phrase anything right.
We're gonna move on.
Freudian
You
slipped
can-
right in there.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You completely distracted me with superheroes, and that's understandable. But I really wanted to ask Erskine, because you're a little bit older than us, not that much, but did you have a mullet in the 90s?
No, I had a rat tail when I was a kid, though.
I had a rat tail too.
Which is almost as bad.
Yeah.
But I had a rat tail.
But you said when you were a kid, so that wasn't really your choice.
It
was
was like my dad did
I
it
think
or
after a
something,
while, it became a thing where they're like, my parents were kind of like, "Oh man, you spent a lot of time growing this thing. Maybe you shouldn't cut it." And then I let it grow. Like I lasted another year or two, and then we finally cut it off.
Why do I feel like, around this age for us, when you refer to yourself as, when I was a kid, you actually mean like 18 through 21. So I'm thinking,
I did not have a rat tail 18 to 20. I had like a rat tail from like 4 to 7.
oh, all right.
So
That sounds about the age to cut off the rat tail.
So when I say when I was a kid, it's accurate.
All right. Well, the mullet prowess.
Was on the prowl. There was it was in abundance.
You
in
hear
Nintendo
of
of the
mullets,
day.
and it feels like a myth, right? And you see them in pictures, but you feel like they're just only there to create memes, as if somebody photoshopped all mullets. Right. That's how it feels like today.
It's the haircut that time forgot.
It's in a history book, but you don't really believe anyone actually had it. And here was a really large collection of employee badges. And they all had fucking mullets.
Yes.
It was awesome.
To make it even more appropriate, though, and this just made sense to me, like one guy was like a hardcore guitar player, so having a mullet and being like a guitar player made sense. I think another one was like also a musician to some degree.
They played in projects together,
right? Yeah.
With they tied their mullets in a knot on stage.
Right.
I don't know how it works.
Wild
And then
Stallions.
the other guy, he roamed around Redmond Town Center in a long brown trench coat, and he would expose himself to people, and he also had a mullet.
So you can equate it to that as well, however you want to do it. I mean, they made certain comments about how, like, when the early days of the Powerline was getting started, the phone system was so archaic that, like, if you had the headset on and managed to put your feet on the ground at the same time, they'd get shocked. Like, this was obviously clearly a static electricity problem, but it took them a while to figure out, and nobody seemed to want to complain because they were all just
No, because they had
happy
a dick
that job.
boss, I guess, at the time that was like, "Shut up!
Right?
You're getting paid to talk about video games. Don't touch the floor, dick."
Yeah, I think the way it was like they were so happy to have that job, but at the same time, like, this guy didn't know how to lead because he was a leader. He just led through intimidation through the training process. But once they actually got the job, that dude had no power over them whatsoever. So it was kind of like funny to watch him fuck with the new recruits. You know what I mean? So nobody ever changed the policy whatsoever. Like, it was. I don't know. It sounds like a job from the 80s. That's what this sounds like. You know what I mean?
It makes sense in a time when games didn't hold your fucking hand all the time like they do today.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's a cyclical thing. Like, we're kind of getting back to open world games where there's less and less hand holding, which is cool. It's nice to see that kind of history repeats itself thing with gaming, I guess.
Full circle.
Full circle. But in this time, I mean, you kind of needed a hotline. Like, even the manuals were just like, press A to shoot doesn't really help me get through this part.
There were no online walkthroughs. There were no game guides. Like, nobody was making money doing that. Like, nobody was putting it out. Like, so when you got stuck, there was no recourse unless somebody you knew had gotten farther.
Oh, I was just gonna say something about, like you said, there were no manuals and everything, and I think about today, and it's like, my games don't even come with manuals anymore. It's kind of like, it's silly. Like, when I bought like Knights of the Old Republic, the manual was like half an inch thick or something, and it was just a one game. And now I get like a little advertisement in my game.
Well, that's part of the like historical context of this, I think, which is the first is you have nothing, no hand holding, go fuck yourself or call this hotline. The second is then we went into really extensive, ridiculous manuals that costed a ton to print,
But they were great. I love it.
and now it's design philosophy instead of manuals. Like, favor the idea that if you can't get your user to figure it out using good like design techniques, then you failed as designers. Right. That's where we're at now, but we're kind of coming back around to I guess just go fuck yourself again. That's kind of where we're at.
Well, you just need a wiki. Like if you have a wiki,
or a wiki. Yeah. Well, we have large enough communities that they can do that work for you. Someone is going to do it.
Every digital PlayStation 4 game pretty much has a PDF manual as part of the game now. Like even though it's not in the box.
True. But they're not as extensive.
They're minor. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, do you agree with that? That we're kind of coming out of like a phase in our gaming history, Chris, where it was completely governed by design to make sure your players knew what to do and not the manual?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of games are definitely trying to round off a lot of the rough edges to make it more accessible. And I guess with accessibility comes, stuff that is easier for new players to get into. But at the same time, right, it's also probably just a cost-cutting measure. At the end of the day, for publishers, right? Why do they want to print up these things and throw them in the box when most people aren't even looking at them anymore?
That's funny because then the publishers will come out with the collector's edition where you get the giant art book, extra manual kind of thing.
Yeah, but
also,
as long as they can.
You got to pay extra for it, which is cool, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think you're right. You guys are onto something to a certain degree when it comes to a publishing cost, having those rule books printed. When all of a sudden you can just hire one guy to build a web page that has some instructions
that everybody can view, and
nobody
has. There's no distribution fees or anything. Yeah.
You know what they should do?
You can sell the strategy guides too.
Oh yeah.
What they should do is let's take advantage of the fact that nobody has a fucking attention span, and if you are asking your users to read, God forbid, then you're probably in order to figure out your game, then you're going to have some problems. Yeah, so how about we deliver instruction manuals in a set of vines?
Well, okay, so there's that, but I'll be a bit gentler in making the same point that you just made, in the sense that it's instead of making players have to not interact by reading text on a screen or in a book, we will have them interact with the game itself to learn, you know what I mean, and how to play the game. And that hence the rise of the tutorial and like you were talking about, those design decisions to kind of...
but I'm suggesting something different. How about a set of vines? If I know I'm going to sit down for 1 minute, right, and I'm going to see a bunch of vines where it's showing one guy get a headshot or something, or even hire some of the top Vine creators to make stupid shit that shows you how to do something in your game.
Sure.
People will be like, no, I know how to play. I don't know. It seems like it's a little more bearable for people's attention spans today.
That makes some sense. I think I'm on board, dude. Yeah, sure.
No.
Why not?
It wasn't a good idea.
I kind of want to see it anyway. It's a thing that nobody should do, but I still want to see. It's the perfect time waster online. That's all I'm talking about.
I got you.
They made comments also in the interview about how, this was back in the day when you could still smoke in corporate buildings. So walking into the cafeteria was instantly getting lung cancer. It sounds kind of awesome, actually.
They had a separate room for smoking, and everybody had to hang out in there if you wanted to move up in the industry, because all the higher ups smoked.
Right.
All the leads smoked. It was this thing where probably one lead smoked, and then everyone wanted to talk to him, and so they all started smoking. And
so you had to go ahead of myself. I have to kill myself a little bit every day just to get ahead in my career. Yeah. So
they had that. They had the Christmas parties, which were apparently insane.
Pretty good. Sounded good. They limos for everybody. Lots of Mrs. Claus groping and people getting fired as a result of shenanigans and antics.
Groping Mrs. Claus.
Basically, it reminds me of a certain Onesie Bar Crawl, perhaps.
Yo, girl.
It sounds more tame.
Yo, girl. Let me peek at you.
He says out the side of a limo.
Yeah, exactly. On his way to a Nintendo party. The cool thing, there were some perks to the job, though. So back in the day, this was actually kind of on the higher end, I think, than minimum wage was at the time. But players were making between $5.50 and $6 an hour. Not players, I'm sorry, but the
professional players.
The professional
players.
They were game consultants, I think, or whatever they were called. Counselors, game counselors. That's what it was. Yep. And but they there was a Nintendo shop in the building at NOA, and they could actually instead of sneaking people in to get their company discounts, they could just bring friends in and let them pay for stuff, and if as long as you accompanied them as an employee, they could get discounts, which is kind of rad. It reminds me of kind of the way a PX works at a military base. Everything's discounted.
Yeah,
but as long as the soldier or the documented person buys it, you're good.
You just, I lived on base for a little while or something, and you just go to it, and it's everything's tax free. You don't have to pay anything. If you had an ID, like a veterans ID. You could just come on base also, and then you could go and buy stuff from there, and it was great.
Yeah.
Everything's cheap, and they got like the generic Walgreens version, but it's the BX version, just like but it's always like half the price also of like the normal stuff they have there also, but exactly the same thing.
I had a cousin who lived at a base in upstate New York for a while, and I just remember him telling me stories like he would buy games and stuff, and like he was telling me the prices he was paying, and I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me that you're only paying this much for those games. Like, it's awesome. So that's cool that they did that. They also, like, some of these guys, specifically the ones that they feature in the article, also got to record some of the footage that was used in the Wizard movie with Fred Savage. That basically that movie was like a giant Nintendo promo, but and ultimately it became like the great reveal for Mario Brothers 3. But like some of the Contra stuff that they did, some of the Street Fighter stuff that they did, all came through them. One of the guys had like the 15-minute ritual every morning. He had to come in and beat Contra within 15 minutes or less every day. Like, that's how he started his day. Like, most people have a cup of coffee or eat a bagel. This guy had to go in and beat Contra.
With one life, with the glove, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, which is pretty crazy.
The most interesting thing about the article was the amount of... You'd think this was a dream job. Anyone would, right? You get this job, you get the opportunity to play games for a living and help other people play games. But what they ended up finding was that in the normal amount of time of a workday, they spent helping people. God forbid they knew the answers, right? That's the tough thing. But then the only way they would actually be good at their job is if they turned around and went home and played everything all night, all the time. It's the only way, because they didn't have a good database system. They didn't have good tools to retrieve this information. If you didn't personally know the answers, and these are answers like, hey, I'm in a room with gray walls.
It's
what do I do next?
Like, how many times do you have to jump to get this or something? Yeah.
Yeah, or like, where are all the secrets in the first dungeon? Like,
unless I found it myself, what the fuck am I going to tell you? Yeah.
So these and these were questions that they expected the employees to find a way to answer, even if they needed to get help from other employees nearby, things like that. But as a collective effort, these people were, if you think about playing the games as working in that respect, right? They were working 80 plus hours a week.
They're literally professional players at that point, where like they get the games on the same day everybody else does, and they have to sit there and kind of go through it. Like, they weren't being given a bunch of material from the devs or even the publisher themselves to figure this stuff out. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like,
it kind of killed the fun for a lot of the employees because you're not playing the games that fun anymore. You're playing the games to find everything. You know, the grind. Like, and I don't even mean in the RPG grind. I mean I beat the game for the story. I played most of it, and then there are these side quests that are really annoying, like, let's say, collecting Riddler fucking trophies in Batman. And they got to do all that, whether they want to or not, because somebody's going to fucking call and be like, where's the Riddler trophy of this part? You're like, oh, the Riddler trophy.
But it's worth like the bit that you have in here about when the Virtual Boy came out, though, that they trained the tipsters to give eye exams. Yeah, that's obviously because people are going blind playing.
Well, I think that that's the good way to portray it. But I think the way that he actually says it is that as a hotline operator, he was actually trained at one point to give eye exams when the Virtual Boy came out. And the way they would do it is he would basically take a bunch of tests and do a bunch of readings on a person, and then have them use the Virtual Boy for 30 minutes, and then take a bunch of tests again. This is when he was crossing over
to testing, though.
Yes.
He's not doing this over the phone with customers.
No, not at all. This was one of the highlights of their job. They said it was like when we didn't have to be on the phones, because the part of the ways that Nintendo made you feel special was giving you separate tasks outside of your normal day-to-day.
Here's a project. You've been doing a great job. You get to be off the phone for 2 weeks. And you get to instead give people eye exams. And then you're going to have them play Virtual Boy, and then you're going to test them again. And then like you would compare like the initial results to the after results. I'd be like, put me back on the phones, please.
Right, exactly. But I think it's hilarious that Nintendo went as far as to like these non-medically trained people in any realm, shape, or form were like, oh yeah, we're just going to train you how to give eye exams to players so that you can.
Well, they wanted to test. They wanted to test whether or not that before the eye exam you
felt any negative offense.
Before playing the Virtual Boy. Here's your eye exam. And here it is after. And really, I just got to write down the results and put them in some binder and then hand it off to the real eye professionals later, and they can find out whether or not our product makes people go blind. That's pretty much what his special project was to reward him for being a great employee.
For being a great phone person, I suppose. But yeah, it's an awesome article. I recommend everybody go out there to go check it out because there's a bunch of stuff that we didn't cover, and you guys, I don't know, like for anybody that's our age and remembers what that hotline was like, or just like living in a time when games were that exciting and
unforgiving.
Right. This is back when and the internet.
Hotline bling.
Thank you, Chris.
And a hotline bling it.
Just remembering what a time was like before we had walkthroughs online or strategy guides or anything like that.
Or communities.
Or the internet.
Yeah. Essentially, yes. It's a good one, and we definitely recommend it. Speaking of change, guys, Valve is changing its Steam sales, the way they're rolling them out for the seasonal releases. Nathan Grayson over Kotaku had an article that basically in short says that instead of daily deals during the weeks-long sales, games will now be available at their sale price for the duration of the promotion, meaning that if something would normally be like, oh, I'm going to be featured on the first day for this price, but only for this day, now it's going to be at that price for the duration of the sale. So no more daily deals, no flash sales anymore. The new methodology is going to roll out for the upcoming fall and winter releases, not releases, but the sales, and they highlighted a few bits about how Valve sent out a release to the publishers, and I'll read off a couple quotes, and then we'll let everybody kind of chime in here. But so quoting the Valve release, it said, "We'll still be highlighting our top games on the front page for 24 to 48 hour spans, but those products will stay at their most competitive discount before and after being featured." They feel like it's not a major change, but it does make the sale a lot more valuable for customers. And it allows us to build sale features that recommend your product all sale long instead of just during its front page feature. For a brand new release, if you can get approval for your best discount for the full length of the sale, that's okay, but we can work on, or if you can't get the approval, for your best discount for the full length of the sale, that's okay, but we can work on a plan for that game. But for the vast majority of your catalog, you should be running at the best discount for the duration of the sale. So not only are they recommending to developers and publishers that, we're going to keep your games on sale for a very long time instead of just 20 to 48 hours. We want to keep it that way, throughout the duration of the entire sale. And even if you guys have new releases, we want you guys to try and figure out a way to discount them. But if you can't, then we'll work out some other kind of plan. You know what I mean? Now, I know that there are a handful of people, at least one or two, and myself included, that often frequent, we get amped up. I get pretty excited about Steam sales, and I don't always buy something, but I'm always on the lookout for something that's been dramatically reduced or something that I may have missed in a PC space. So, how do you guys feel about it? Nick, Chris, I'm looking at you guys specifically. I know, Joe, maybe you don't do Steam quite as often, but from time to time you do, and I'm just curious how you guys are feeling about it.
Yeah, I got a handful of Steam games.
First.
I PC often, just so you know, but I like. This doesn't affect me as much as I guess I thought it would. I like Steam. I use Steam all the time. Most of my games are on Steam, and everybody can probably say that if they have a PC. But come
on, Origin. Origin.
The way I use Steam is I find the games I like and I put them on my wish list, and then Steam notifies me when they're on sale, and then I purchase them.
Okay.
I like to look at the specials sometimes, and I'll see some things like, oh, that's cool. I may have thought about buying that. But I was never always just constantly refreshing to find the newest Steam sale or something. I'd press it on Fridays, oh, no Steam sales on the weekend, and I don't check again until next week.
Okay.
So it doesn't affect me that much, I feel like, but it's a good thing. I'll get more games on sale, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So
this sounded I have a question, because I feel like when I read the article, it kind of vaguely mentioned outside of those flash sales, other than the release day sales, that they were going to try not to put games on sales, especially at the end of their life. I read this. I don't know. I guess maybe I feel like I'm the only one, but I read the article, and I recall it saying that they're going to try not to do that kind of thing because they don't want stuff to happen like what you just said.
They don't want
They don't want people being patient and waiting for a game to drop in price when that game deserves to be purchased by people who want to purchase it. Because what they're doing is, sorry, I'm just going to finish my last thought.
Yeah.
What they're doing is facilitating more people to start having your attitude, and that's not good for them, because then a game only starts selling after it decides that it's dead and it needs to reduce its price in order to get those last few sales before they stop working on it.
So you're saying it sounds like they're changing so that when the game is dying, they're going to put it on sale?
No, that they're not going to do that as well. They're trying to remove that as well so that they don't have people like you, Nick, who are patient enough to wait for a game to go on sale before you buy it. They want you to know that may not happen at all, and thus you'll be more interested in purchasing it in a more ample time frame for the company to get the money. Yes,
yeah, I can understand that. Maybe it's because I'm patient, but I don't feel like I'm waiting for the game to die. I feel like I'm waiting 3 weeks or like 2 months or something. And
that was kind of my question. It's like, what is this time frame like? Because are they really going to do that? They're going to take that out so that people don't wait, right?
Well, what's the average Steam sale last? Like, Chris? You could probably answer this. Like, the average Steam sale lasts for like 2 weeks, right? 10 days or something like that.
Yeah, like 1 to 2 weeks for the big Steam
like
sales.
the seasonal ones, yeah, like fall, summer, winter, or spring or whatever. So I feel like I think there's 2 points I have to hit in directly relation to the conversation that you just started, Joe, in the sense that I think by taking away sale prices for games that are about to die, quote unquote.
That wasn't the best word for it.
No, but I know what you're talking about. There's something that maybe is like going out of fashion or is even getting pulled, which is starting to happen oddly enough on Steam. But if a game is starting to come to the end of its life, at least in a public way, that's when it should be full price, right? And that's how Steam feels about it too, or like even their developers, so that everybody's maximizing their revenue to a certain degree, because it's that last gasp, and maybe there might be a spike in demand to a certain degree, and that's fine as far as I'm concerned. But what I like about the change here is that instead of just having a flash sale or like the daily deal, like if you miss the day where that game that you wanted was on sale during the seasonal sale,
you can still get it. You can
still get it as long as you get it within the like that 7 to 10 day span, which is a cool thing to me. And I don't know. I'm not sure what this means necessarily for the gamification of their sales. Like I think on the last couple, they've done some really interesting like not clickbait, but like clicker action and setting up like with the. Did you guys check any of this out last time they did one?
Yeah, that one, it was actually like quite fun. I mean, it was totally like an exploitable version of Cookie Clicker, but it was interesting to see the exploits that people came up with.
Wait, can you explain this? Back up a bit, because I don't know at all what you're talking about.
The last Steam summer sale, they had basically like this Cookie Clicker style game that was like a massively multiplayer, and by participating in it, you could like unlock, I think, additional promotions and stuff. But really, people were not even participating in that for it anymore. They were just trying to exploit it to get to max level, because I guess Valve added like some secret achievement for getting to, I don't even know, it was like level 10 billion or some crazy number like that.
So Valve had a Steam sale that was a game that Valve made that unlocked Steam sales.
Correct.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Next year, they'll do a game that unlocks Steam sales for games that unlock Steam sales for games.
Right. So that came into question, too. Is that like if they're going to change the way they do the sales, are they going to change the way they gamify it? And so I'm like, do they need to? I don't know. Like, people seem to think that clicker thing was a lot of fun. I thought I didn't care.
Do you think this? I have a question. Sorry, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is like, I feel like I'm the PC guy here, and I don't even know about this clicker thing. Like, I know about the Steam sales and stuff, but I didn't even pay attention that they had like some kind of interactive program.
I think you're a very specific user then. I think
that's
you represent
a testament to him just having a list,
very like specified, and like you figured out the way that you want to use like Valve and Steam, and that's the way you use it.
I know what I want.
No, clearly. No argument.
I get kind of like I get roped in the whole hubbub of the summer and the winter sales. I think they're cool. I like that there's a lot of community building that happens around it. I like that they do the mini games and stuff. I think that simplifying the way that they do the deals is cool. It's good for the consumer. Hopefully, it's ultimately good for the developers and the publishers as well. But I mean, I know I definitely spend a bunch of money during the Steam sales. So
fair
any excuse for me to spend more and get more games out of it is totally okay with me.
My question for you guys who use Steam the most is, do you think that there's a possibility that this rollout, this change in the sale, is an attempt to cut back on the number of games that people purchase that they never actually install?
I think it's a way to be more transparent, I guess. And like, I guess a lot of people, the way they feel about Steam sales is that it's very much like they're trying to trick you into thinking that you gotta get it right now. And I guess to me, it feels like they're just kind of like making it they're simplifying it. They're making it a little bit easier just so you can get it on sale when it's on sale. Like you don't have to worry about that.
But it's not on sale. They're never going to be on sale now for the prices that they are on sale during these crazy times, because nobody is going to sell their game for $3 for that long. That's the thing they're talking about.
I understand that, but I'm not looking to buy like This is an example. This is unrealistic example, but I'm not looking to buy Star Wars Battlefront for $3 if I log on for 2 hours on Saturday or something. I don't even know how this is. I guess how the Steam sales work like that, I guess, but I would just want it to be on sale for like 2 weeks or something, and then I can buy it, and it's not going to bother me if I'm not getting that extra $5 off or something.
Yeah, what used to happen was like you'd have to vote on some of the sales, right? And then so maybe only one of the games that was listed would get promoted,
right?
And then the flash sale would only happen like one time during the sale at a specific time. I think they would do like encore flash sales maybe, but what it essentially did is it like kind of made you feel pressured into, oh my God, this game is so cheap right now. It's on sale right now, and it's only going to be on sale for like 1 hour. And so like I need to buy it even though I don't fucking care what it is. Now I guess if they like have it be on sale for the whole time, you get the ability to actually maybe put some more thought into whether you really want to spend the money on the game.
And I think that's fair. I think that's right, Chris, to a certain degree. But as a direct answer to your question, Joe, is this going to decrease the amount of games that aren't played in a person's library? The answer is no, because when there's a sale, especially on video games, and like there's a handful of stuff, especially like Steam does, and as an outlet for indie developers, when you can get 10 games for $10, and you can. Like, you're still going to get those 10 games. It works the same way as a Humble Bundle.
But it sounds like they're not going to do that anymore. That's what I'm reading, because if the sale has to last for a longer period of time than it used to, and the publisher has to be on board with that. Imagine if you made a game, and instead of there being a flash sale where you just put it on sale for $5 because you're hoping that people talk more about it and then people buy it for full price, if they tell you that you have to keep it at $3 or $5 for 2 weeks or however long, you're not going to do that. That's what they're saying in this article.
But look at games specifically like Rocket League, or you look at games like, let's just stick with Rocket League for example. Like they made a big splash this past summer, and I'm talking about a completely different platform with the PSN network. Like it was offered for free for that month through the PSN network, and it blew up. It got huge, and now it's just as big on Steam and everything else. But they offered it for free first, and now people are paying for full price for it. So when you ask a developer to pay $10 for an indie game, I'm not saying necessarily for a AAA title, but if you ask an indie developer to pay like a nominal price for a small game, or a game may not have the same kind of marketing strength that a AAA title does, but there are some cases when it actually works out in their favor to do that. You know what I mean? Like take those hits for that month and now like send it out and charge full price and know that you have one of the surprise hits of the year. You know what I mean?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Right. So
but that's the part of the service that they're eliminating.
Oh, I disagree.
Unless
I don't think it's an elimination. I think it's just like an elongation or a telescoping of the deal instead of just like making it this like the way they talk about in the article about how to like got to get it now thing. You know what I mean?
It's so like that goes away. Game that means that the average price of the game that's on sale is going to be higher for sure, because they're not going to sell their game for that low for that long.
Maybe
they're not going to do that.
Okay.
So I don't think so. And so therefore you're going to see instead like less people purchasing it at such a cheap rate and then never playing it, right?
I think because gaming is becoming so much more casual in a way that because like people aren't going to get on for that 2 hour sale in a way, they're going to log on at their more convenience and then see that there's a sale about the game and then buy it. Like they don't need that hardcore gamer that's going to be on Steam every day and checking the sales every 2 hours or something.
I'm an advocate of this service, by the way.
No, me too.
Oh no, I'm just thinking that's maybe what they're thinking. I think Valve's much smarter than us in this whole, and they're probably have this figured out, and we don't yet. But I don't know. Like
I think everything you're saying is right. I think the answer exists somewhere in the middle, where it's between like this change and how it differs from kind of like where it used to be, and we're going to see like a difference. Is it going to change the amount of games that aren't played in somebody's library? I don't think so. But at the same time, I also think like people are going to have a little bit more access and have a more actionable choice on the stuff that they actually buy. And
I think it's going to change the number of games that people have in their library. But I don't think it's going to make a difference because people are going to buy the games that they want because they're going to be able to more conveniently buy it on sale.
Fair enough.
Well, I'm just going to hold on to the thought from here on out that Valve is making steps towards making people want to actually play the games they buy and think them for that.
That's what it sounds
I'm
like.
so sick of the idea of having games in your library you don't play. And that's why I was hoping that number would go down. And if this pushes us in that direction where, hey, pay for this game and actually fucking play it. Oh, yes, please.
Right.
Thank you, Valve. I appreciate that.
It makes you mad because you can't trade them in.
Right.
All right. I'd be curious to know what's in Mark Cuban's Steam library.
That he's not playing. That
he's not playing. Yeah. Mark Cuban played League of Legends against the CEO of Intel this past weekend at a charity event. For those who don't know, Mark Cuban owns the Dallas Mavericks. It's an NBA basketball team. Magnolia Pictures, it's a production company that does some large... some people may not know.
No, it was good.
I'm not trying to be insulting. He stars as an investor on the show Shark Tank and probably has more money than God. He's known as a pretty loquacious fellow, and he doesn't necessarily mince words or opinions. He gave a quick interview while at this charity event, mentioning the rise of eSports and its legitimacy as a sport. He played it a bit coy when asked if he was in on the market to purchase or start an eSports team, so he said that we'll see on that front. But he did make mention of our
dear friend
Colin Cowherd, saying that the radio host is an quote-unquote idiot, his words, not mine, by dismissing games as sports and his comments about the players and their fans being nerds and the like. Direct quote from Mark Cuban. It's like playing five-dimensional chess against the world when speaking about League of Legends, and it's one of the smartest games that I've ever played. Granted, he did admit to only playing the game 3 times before sitting down for this matchup with the Intel CEO, but... and this is the kind of the coup de grace of this whole thing. While doing this interview, he used the word "fuck" twice during this interview, which each got him fined $15,000.
I think we just got fined. Also, sorry,
we might. Well, we label our show explicit, so
don't worry about it.
Oh, it was only 1 quarter each time though, so it's fine.
Okay,
we have the swear jar. It's right in the middle of the table.
Swear jar goes to charity, you guys. The first time he said "fuck," because he proclaimed himself fucking smart when learning how to play the game, and then when he was notified of this fine, he responded with "fuck it," knowing that money he would pay would go to the charity. The charity itself is called Cyber Smile, this is kind of hilarious to me. Cyber Smile is a charity that exists to combat cyberbullying and promote a more positive internet. I think it's hilarious that they were playing League of Legends and using this charity as a backup because
a game that had to take the chat feature out,
right? Because of how toxic their fucking community got.
The chat feature, but
yeah. I'm just saying. I think this is
the best part of this article, though, dude. Please, I'm going to read this one.
Go ahead.
The fact that he wore the 3 comma shirt referencing the Silicon Valley character Russ Hanneman that's loosely based on Cuban. I read that part and I could not stop laughing. It's like, oh, like for sure he's got the 3 commas like right there across his t-shirt. It's absolutely
and 3
perfect.
commas that man has in his bank account. There's no doubt about it.
A fucking smart fashion choice.
Good one.
Indeed. And I this would be a really great thing, like even for if you want to be able like to be a legitimate critic, and I'm talking to you, Colin Cowherd, to talk about esports in a way that like if you don't necessarily agree with it or you think it's fucking bullshit or whatever, like do shit like that. You know what I mean? Because the people that play these games will appreciate that humor or appreciate the effort that you're making to kind of like either combat, or delegitimize a sport that is clearly on the rise. So I'm not saying Colin Cowherd should wear a 3 comma shirt, but maybe he should be a bit more clever in his criticism.
I feel like what you were trying to say was that he should sit down and play it himself.
Oh, well,
that too.
That too. But
okay.
But if you wanted to
Not
get
just
around
wear
the whole
a shirt.
idea, no, I'm just saying, like, if you want to, like, if you're going to be that critical of something, clearly he hasn't played it because, I've played League of Legends. I'm not necessarily into it, but I can appreciate it for what it is. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to sit here and turn around and say that
Nick,
League of Legends players are nerds. But
isn't it more? To me, it seemed like more of a sport. To me, games like this that you play where you get completely reamed. Mm-hmm. The first time you sit down, and there's really no way to be good at it when you first start. There's just no way.
By the gameplay or by the community that's playing?
No, because it's so difficult because you're playing against people and people are figuring this shit out, and you're playing to the mind of the other person.
It's kind of like okay, it's hard to like speculate on that because the way League of Legends works is like when you're low level and you're inexperienced, you would play against a low level
and you still get reamed by them when you start.
But if you were low level and you played it against somebody who understands the sport, like they're mid level, let's say, even like they know all the rules, they know the map a little bit, and you're gonna get crushed or something because there's a lot of skill and like knowledge that you need to know to actually understand the game. You need to know what people's champion skills are and stuff, I suppose. But
it's all right. Go ahead.
I can't think of what I was saying. Sorry.
Use your words.
I don't. That's very much like a sport, I would say. Like if you just played like football, I guess you could say, which everybody has recognized as sports and for like 100 years or so. But it's like you can be athletic, you can jump in, you can be really smart, you can play the game, but you're not going to be as good because you're not going to understand all the nuances right away or something. So like for this guy to sit down and actually play the game, it might help, it might not, but because there's such a drop off in difficulty or something. I
guess that's pretty much what I was asking. Is like do you think it legitimizes it as a sport because of how heavy or how difficult the barrier of entry is? Because you take people who don't like football and throw them into a football match, have them get tackled a couple times and be like,
that would be a high.
This is hard.
That would be a high barrier of entry as well. But I think I think you.
That's what I was trying to get. Yeah.
No, and I think this is what you were getting at, is that anytime you do that, anything that wants to be a sport or whatever has to have some sort of barrier of entry, right? But there has to be some sort of understanding of nuance. You need a rule book that comes with the game.
Well, the part that's interesting about it with like competitive games and with sports as well, right? Like if I understood the meta of football, right, I would probably be more interested in listening to people talk about football and watching people play football. And that's the same thing with lots of games, I think, is just the mind game of like myself and what actions I'm going to take and what sort of strategy I'm going to use against my opponent, but also thinking about like all of the possibilities of things that my opponent is going to be doing to counter that. And then of course they're on the other end thinking about, well, what's he going to do? What should I do in response to what he's going to do? And it's kind of got that crazy like metagame strategy going on that is very interesting to watch.
So Cuban was right when he says that it's a 5-dimensional chess match, because I feel like everything you just described is exactly what a chess game is.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think that's what a good someone who's shoutcasting too makes it entertaining, is when they understand that and they're speaking to an audience that understands that, then it's even more exciting for everybody. And that's probably the part that Colin Cowherd doesn't really have figured out yet.
I agree 100%, and I'll make one last corollary to another sport other than football, because I feel like every time we do the eSports thing, we always go football because we're in a fantasy league together.
Well, but I think it's also a result of the Colin Cowherd.
It's a good analogy. But let's talk World Series of Poker. Anybody you have to play poker to enjoy the World Series of Poker. You absolutely have to have looked down the felt and put in chips and seen your cards to really appreciate that type of a sport as well.
I think that's
and everybody else who hasn't is going to see a bunch of people sitting around a table who look down at these two pieces of paper and then throw some of these round things into the middle, and then somebody walks away with this really large amount of cash. People are like, what the fuck? Why are people walking with millions of dollars after looking at two cards and then placing chips in the middle?
Well, here's
because of the game, because of the sport, because of the nuances. Once you understand how it works, and once you've experienced yourself, do you appreciate when professionals do it, I don't know, 1,000,000 times better than you do? And I think that this game, that like League of Legends and other esports games, are just indicative of that to no end.
This is I don't want to use the same word you did, but very corollary to what I was going to say. But this is a very good example, because you, when maybe 2 years ago or something, you started playing League of Legends with us for you played for maybe a month and a half or something.
Yeah.
And after that, we went to PAX and they had the League of Legends tournament in there, and it was like a stadium, and it was just teams playing against each other, and you really appreciated it because you played it for like a long enough time that you could understand the actual rules a little bit. And we were sitting there this is fucking great, this is awesome.
It was the best thing we did at PAX that year.
Yeah, it was just going watching these teams play
2 years ago, right?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah. You're not going to understand it if you haven't played it. So
no, I remember sticking my head in that tent and being like, this is
You didn't play it though, right?
I did. I have not with you guys, and not more than like 2 or 3 matches. But I'll say this before the end of it, before we dismiss Colin Cowherd or even Mark Cuban from this. Like, when you talk about sports in general and you talk about esports, like, all the same skills are necessary. Do you have to work out all day to play esports? No, but you still need a certain amount of dexterity, a certain amount of hand-eye coordination, and everything else. They qualify as a sport, but on a different fucking level. Still a sport, right? Can we all agree?
Yeah, I would say it's a sport. It's like, are they athletes? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, but that's the exact
Depends
point.
on the exact definition of athlete.
That's a different argument.
I honestly don't know what the definition of athlete is.
It's been blurred. It's a gray area now. You know what I mean?
We'll look it up and then we'll decide whether or not League of Legends players are athletes.
Webster's dictionary.
Athlete
has.
That's how I start all my presentations.
All my PowerPoints. All right. Lightning round time. We're getting close on time here. We gotta hurry this shit up. Okay, panel. While some of you know how this works, others may not. So we're gonna take a few quick topics. We're gonna give people a minute to chime in, uninterrupted for the most part, and we will award points based on nothing in particular. Everybody's gonna get a chance to chime in today. So first and foremost, Kotaku published an article. I think Steven Totillo was the one who did it, basically showcasing the fact that they had been blacklisted by developers, specifically Bethesda and Ubisoft. I think Bethesda for about 2 years and Ubisoft for the past year or so. As the article states, the relationship between journalistic outlets and developers isn't always a friendly one. And the article that I'm specifically referencing comes from Gamers FTW, who basically wrote a response or just kind of like a companion piece to Steven Totillo's article in regards to kind of like what this looks like from a smaller gaming news site's perspective. Kotaku got itself on these companies' bad sides by publishing insider information on unannounced releases, namely Fallout 4 and Assassin's Creed Victory. So we're going to wax poetic on the practice of blacklisting and whether or not it's valuable in a relationship with game journalists or not, or however you guys want to spend your minute, because that's how we do. Chris, as a welcome back president, we're going to give you the first minute, man. Why don't you go ahead and chime in?
Yeah, so I actually read this article and I thought it was kind of interesting. At first I read it and I was like, hey, why are these guys blacklisting Kotaku? That sounds kind of unfortunate. However, upon reading more, talking to some friends, whatever, they're actually putting people's jobs at risk. They're putting game developers' jobs at risk, trying to either contact these sources, get information out of them, etc. Potentially ruining like really carefully planned marketing stuff that they're working on. I mean, there's a lot of money on the line, and I think that kind of publishing this stuff as insider info, like because they're doing their due diligence to the public, is kind of like disingenuous when they could get plenty of clicks out of like other articles without putting people at risk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well said. Way to draw from a professional and probably I would assume a reliable source. So I'm going to give Mr. Morris as a welcome back present
15 points.
I'll say 15,000 points.
See, but you don't know.
Oh,
yeah, all right. So you just define the scale. I feel like every show, one show, you can just be like 3 points, and then 7 points feels like fuck.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I feel like that's what usually happens.
5.6.
Yeah, exactly.
The Russian judge gave you a 7. Yes.
15,000.
Yeah, right. So 15,000 points to you, Chris. Well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Arroyo, you're next. Give me a minute.
With this one, this is so hard to fit in a minute, but I obviously have some issues with the whole relationship between publishers, developers, and the press, because everybody has something to gain, and it's kind of important. For the press, they need public to actually come to their website to read their articles. So they need to do whatever they can to get people to go there versus the other place, right? And sometimes that involves trying to find information that other sources do not have so that they stand out. But then when they use means that aren't good, they put people out of their jobs and shit. They try and trade insider information, and they fuck over the developers, they fuck over the publishers. And that's the kind of thing I have a problem with. There needs to be a relationship there that's mutually beneficial, and that to me sounds kind of virtually impossible. So I don't have a solution for it. It's just one of those like conundrums I think of where it's like chicken before the egg, like they need each other, but we don't really know in what order and who depends on who, and it makes me sad. I don't really have a good answer.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one for sure. I'm going to give you I'm I'm also going to give you 15,000 points because fuck it. I think you raised a good point. Like, and you spoke something that he alludes to in the article is that it is this like delicate dance between publishers, developers, and the journalists, people that cover and want to provide news to the adoring public, right? So it's this kind of weird back and forth. Nick.
Hey. I guess the way I initially interpreted this was that maybe like Kotaku was like on the inside on some of these like these things that they were reporting, but maybe they signed some NDAs or something, and they broke these NDAs and they got blacklisted because they weren't following what they were supposed to do,
right? Which,
from my opinion, completely places the blame on them, and it's completely their fault that they got blacklisted. The way Chris described it further, I guess, complicates it a little bit because it may not have been that. It may have been like some journalist coming up to some publisher or like to some developer on the game. They're asking questions about it, and they say something, and they don't necessarily want that to like go onto like some kind of website where like anybody can read it. They were just trying to tell them in confidence or something about the game, and it seems shady. Like, this sounds to me like Kotaku's fault. Like, it's not really.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Everybody's having really good minutes right now. I'm going to give you 15,000 points as well. Congratulations. Everybody's tied. My turn. Here we go. So this brings up a very like large question about journalism and the way it affects games and consumer products specifically, because you can't have journalism about religion or politics. Like, the Vatican is not going to put a fucking embargo on like their 11th commandment. You know what I mean? They're not going to put a fucking Trump is not going to put an embargo of the people that he kicked out at his Republican rally the other night. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff is getting reported as it happens, and I feel like journalism in that respect in games wants to be able to do that. But when game companies put out embargoes, they want to be able to like cater the way that their product is released. This is where consumer products and a consumer like fandom like changes between real life evolving issues. Okay, so I agree with Chris in the sense that like some people's jobs might be getting affected by the fact that some site is going to start releasing information ahead of its time. But if you get on board and you assign, like if you make an agreement to like, I want to cover this game, so I will respect the boundaries of your embargo, then fucking do that, because otherwise you're doing exactly the wrong thing. Like, news is still news.
Time's up.
I'm still a host. Goddamn. News is still news, but like, rules are rules as well, and they're in place for a reason, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't know. I hope that minute made sense. Sorry.
I know, we'll find out because Morris gets to award you
go
points.
ahead.
It's minus 1,000.
So I get to give you points now?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 15,000 points and a trout.
A trout.
Yeah.
I like fish. Fish is good.
Does the trout like make him better or worse than us?
Yeah, is it a skill?
It's more than 15,000. It's 15,000 plus a trout.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but plus a negative number is less than
exactly.
15,000.
You receive the trout card. Go back 3 spaces.
Is it like the old maid card?
It's
It's like the old maid
it's
card.
the fucking trout. Don't try to take it from him. God damn it, you bastard.
so it smells fishy, and it's not actually 15,000.
I like it. Okay.
It's 15,000 and a
So
trout.
we all win except for Joe.
All right. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the lead designer and now president of From Software, basically the guy behind everything Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Blood Boner, as we lovingly refer to it on this show, is now president of From Software, and he did an interview with GameStop recently, and has hinted and basically, I mean, almost flat out said that the upcoming Dark Souls 3 will be the last of the series. Makes me sad, but he's optimistic about the future of From Software, however, hoping that they can move forward into new ideas and new games, and that will help them stay relevant and successful as a developer. As our final lightning round topic for the evening, I'm gonna reverse it. I'm gonna start with Nick tonight, and then I'll wrap it up. But you have 1 minute to talk about whether or not it's a good idea to not milk a franchise for everything it's worth.
Do I think it's a good idea? I suppose, yeah. Why not? Get your money's worth. But is it like, I don't know, is it inherently bad to like destroy your characters or your story or your incomplete franchise just so you can make an extra buck? Then I don't really think so. Like, a lot of TV shows did that in the past. I think TV shows are getting a lot better about that. They made their season shorter. They've put more budget into like producing higher quality episodes and stuff. And it's kind of the same as this, I suppose. Like, don't run your shit into the ground just because you want an extra buck. Like people want to see the stuff later. Like I love watching my old shows or something, and I like playing my old games. And I'm not going to play Assassin's Creed 15 because it's still Assassin's Creed, and it's about like fucking like it's a different game. Like it's not even Assassin's Creed anymore. Like I don't know.
I'm going to give you 30,000 points because I feel like you had a couple of good one-liner, awesome points in that. So well done, sir. Mr. Arroyo, what? Go ahead.
I made all that up.
Well,
I don't know.
Right. That's what the lightning round's for, buddy. Mr. Arroyo, you have a minute to tell me anything you want.
Oh, anything I want. So I went to the grocery store today. I picked up a loaf of bread, a carton of eggs, and a gallon of milk, and I see the rest of my time.
Okay, I'm gonna award you 0 points. All right, no, I'm sorry, that's not true. I'm gonna award you.
What percentage of milk did you get?
Yes, valid question because it's gonna determine how I award you points.
2%.
2% times a dozen eggs is 24.
24 points
plus a loaf of bread.
That's about
which
18.
is like 30,000 points
that's like
for a loaf of bread.
Depending on how you multiply it.
Fucking A.
It depends on the bread, though. Also.
I'll give you another 15. All right, so you're up at 15,000. It was an extra good loaf of bread.
I thought it was 15. Like he's at 39 points.
Yeah,
it was local fair trade or
farm to table. God damn it, Mr. Morris.
All right, so as a diehard Souls fan since Demon Souls, this makes me a little bit sad. I'm kind of bummed to hear that the series is ending. However, I'm very, very excited about what From Software might have in store next. And even the fact that, he's like, yeah, other people go ahead and borrow this stuff and make cool games out of it. Like, we don't care. I think that the little bit in the article about him maybe wanting to work on EverQuest or Ultima Online, oh my God, my blood boner just lifted the table off the ground like 15 inches at least. And, it gives them the opportunity to bring back these franchises later and do them even better and really kind of bank on my nostalgia, which I'm all about, dude. Like, Star Wars is right around the corner, and I'm going to be, like, having heart attacks. And that's all I got.
Well done. I think you're right. In, like, 30 years when the president of PlayStation at that point announces, Dark Souls reissue, like, people are they're gonna have trouble controlling their blood boners.
Dark Souls VR.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would they do that when they could just re-release it, like port it to the next?
Yeah, well, they might do that, Nick. You're right. All right, so here's my feeling on the whole matter. I love
any points.
I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize.
No, you did not.
Yeah, you heard us correctly. You got no points.
0 points.
I don't know. I essentially agree with everything you're about to say, and I'm going to echo some of those points right now. So I'm going to give you a hefty 45,000 points, sir, which puts you at even 60 for the day. Congratulations.
That's a weird time machine moment where he said everything you're about to say after he already said it. And
I feel like those points are invalid.
So he's going in you ready?
What time frame are we in? Where?
This is going to be the climax of the movie right now. All right. So, ending a franchise before it's run its course. Do you know what this means? That Dark Souls has effectively become the Chappelle Show of video games. You're welcome, everybody.
Shit.
You're welcome. It ended too early, but you know what? Like, it's still only good because it ended when it did. So ultimately, what happens is Dark Souls gets 3 games, Bloodboner gets a game, and Demon Souls gets a game. That's 5 games. If that's and Scholar of the First Sin, which was basically Dark Souls 2 remastered, so maybe 6 total. I think that's a lot of game to cover. And if you love that style of game, there are still plenty of games that are stealing that mechanic and running it through. Like, everything gets compared to, oh, this is the Dark Souls of this fucking genre. Like, it's become its own thing. Like, if that's not a stamp that can be like worn into the ground by other genres, so be it. If From Software wants to move on, I absolutely want to see what they're going to do next. Because if they did what they did originally, as well as they do the next thing, we're all in for a fucking treat.
Oh my God, you're such a fanboy.
Morris,
so
go ahead and award him points.
All right, I'm gonna give you 20,000 points, a twin humanity, and 1 Estus flask.
Thank you.
And I'm going to remove 10,000 points for saying 6 games, but then somehow giving us a hand gesture where you showed us 10 fingers. I didn't understand that part.
I would
You're
like
6 games at most.
That's super confusing to throw out there on a podcast.
Which is why I explained it exactly.
I would also
I explained why you lost points.
Fair enough. Okay.
I would also like to remove some points.
You can't take away his points when I'm the one awarding them.
Because
I think we're setting a precedent right now.
I feel like you made an analogy that basically equated to Dark Souls teaching me about racism. With Dave Chappelle in there somehow.
Well,
yeah.
You shouldn't discriminate against the dead.
Like, is From Software going to escape to a country for a while and just kind of disappear?
Maybe they will. Like, they're going to get a $50 million deal from Comedy Central,
Right.
and they're just going to disappear to South Africa for a hot minute, and then go buy a farm in Ohio and live out the rest of their days, occasionally doing stand-up. It's fine.
I'm going to give my points right back to you because I said some country because I couldn't remember what fucking country Dave Chappelle went away to. And now, because you know everything about everything, I take back my deduction.
Well, I appreciate all the points you gave me back that don't matter. So, good for me, I guess.
It's the thought that counts.
That's right. Better to give a gift than receive, I guess. Let's call it, guys. All right. Episode 73 is in the bag. There you have it. Thank you for being here, dear listener. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on cheatcodespodcast.com. Okay. How about I get my own fucking website right? Cheatcodespodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And get it on the conversation. Spread the word. Tell all your friends. We hope you have a tasty, enjoyable, and very safe Thanksgiving. Our regular Thursday that rocks if you're not into the usual U.S. or big dinners with your family. If that's not your thing, it's fine. We get it. But for those of us that are, that's what we're going to do, which is why we're coming to you early this week. But in the meantime, stay tuned for new episodes coming next week. More guests coming soon.
Go fuck yourself, Sandy.
I'm not even gonna fucking say anything after that. Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. Rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers and the dreamers and me.
Good sound check, everybody.
Oh.
Oh, you really want to keep going?
I wanted to keep going.